Baltany S4106 Constellation Homage Male Watch Review. The Missing Dresswatch Secret. Most people who want a refined mechanical dress watch run into the same quiet problem. The design they truly want, that slim, mid-century constellation feel with a pie-pan dial and proper proportions, either costs far too much in vintage form or simply does not exist in a wearable modern package. So they compromise. They buy something larger, thicker, or flatter, and then wonder why it never feels quite right on the wrist. That hidden cost is easy to miss. It is not just money. It is the slow disappointment of wearing a watch that looks acceptable but never feels exact. And once you notice that gap, it is hard to unsee. Does that sound a little too familiar? The damage from settling happens quietly. First, it drains time. You keep browsing, comparing, second-guessing, and watching review after review because the watch you bought did the job, but never fully closed the loop. Then it drains money. You buy one placeholder, then another, and somehow the budget-friendly route becomes its own expensive detour. And finally, it drains confidence in your own taste. That sounds dramatic, but it is real. When something on your wrist is slightly too big, slightly too shiny, or slightly too thick, you feel it every time it catches your eye. Subtle, but constant. There is a better version of this story. One where the proportions, finishing, and vintage character line up the way you always hoped they would. And once you see that version clearly, most alternatives start to feel strangely unfinished. This is where the Baltany S4106 Constellation Homage male watch enters, and everything changes. The mechanism is simple. It takes the mid-century constellation formula people still chase today and rebuilds it with modern materials, a high-beat Miyota 9015, and proportions that actually respect the original idea. The first quiet superpower is the 36mm case and 9.7mm thickness, which finally gives you that cuff-friendly dress watch profile most modern brands abandoned. The second is the pie-pan crosshair dial with applied markers, which creates real depth instead of flat, printed nostalgia. The third is the hardened 316L stainless steel case, which lets you wear it daily without treating it like museum glass. The fourth is the domed sapphire crystal with AR coating, giving you vintage character with modern clarity. The fifth is the 42-hour power reserve and smooth 28,800 BPH sweep, which makes the experience feel refined every time you glance down. And yes, I tested this myself. One buyer who had spent months looking at vintage Omega references put on the salmon dial version and said it felt like a far more expensive watch immediately. Wait, that is allowed. Here is where the doubt starts to collapse on its own. Immediately, the slim case solves the cuff problem that ruins so many so-called dress watches. Over a week, the comfort and proportions start to feel natural, not small, just correct. Long-term, the hardened steel and sapphire crystal give you freedom that true vintage pieces rarely offer in everyday wear. A horological reviewer described the S4106 as a masterclass in neo-vintage design, specifically calling out the 36mm case, pie-pan dial, and Miyota 9015 as the combination that makes the whole concept work. A Reddit user said the watch looked like a $1,000 plus piece on the wrist. Another buyer with smaller wrists said the 36mm size was exactly what made them stop looking elsewhere. I noticed this after 3 weeks. The dial details keep rewarding you in different light, especially the salmon and gold variants. Which of these benefits hits you hardest? Comment 1 for proportions, 2 for finishing, 3 for value. Compared with most alternatives in this range, this simply feels more complete, more intentional, and far less compromised. The deepest benefit here is simple. You stop compromising and start wearing the watch you were actually trying to find all along. Join the ones who quietly upgraded their entire watch game without paying vintage market prices or accepting modern, oversized design. If you have been circling this style for a while, it makes sense to check it now, while the dial options you want are still available. Link in the description, first one pinned to the top. Take a look, trust your eye, and enjoy the part where this finally gets easy.
For demo videos and current pricing, check the link in the description.